So this is stage 2 of our measuring of fencing. This is where we start to use quantity link. So in review, we've got exactly the same setup as for stage 1, so we don't need to run through that. Instead, we jump straight over into Excel. Before we jump onto the actual quantity link, I will show you where we've got the rates page set up. So we've got a few tables here. First ones are our allowances for overheads and profit. Next table is for allowances for any possible future increases if we're looking at larger jobs. Labour, plant and materials are covered there. Got a table here for labour rates. So I'll put some day rates in for foreman, fencer, labourer. These are just numbers I've picked out of the air, really. And I've put some hours worked per day against each of them as well. That gives us our base hourly rate. Once we've applied the increases from here, overheads and profit, then we get a total hourly rate, which we will use for calculating our charges. We've got two tables here, one for fence details, one for post details. Now, the first section of the fence details and all of the post details are the same kind of table. Basically, what we do is we say how many hours for the foreman, the fencer, the labourer to complete each section of the work. So for a metre of the fencing here, I've allocated quarter of an hour for a fencer, quarter of an hour for a labourer. To erect and finish a close bore gate, I've put an hour for a fencer. So our labour rates are calculated by taking three figures here, multiplying by the three figures here. Material costs, now these are our base material costs. In order to get our final material rate, we need to add overheads, profit, and any increase on materials. Plant rate works in exactly the same way. Add these three rates here together and you get our total rate. Same works exactly the same way for the posts. Now what I've done on the end of here as well, I've put in post type to be used for each type of fence. First of all, we'll look at the centres. So posts at 3 metre centres, 1 divided by 3 gives us 0.33 posts per metre. You get 0.28 posts if they're at 3.6 metre centres, etc. The rate here is worked out by looking at the detail here, cross-referencing it with this table here, and it returns the value in this column here. So if we'd said we want to change this fence post type to 100 by 100, you can see the rate has changed here to reflect this 100 by 100 post rate here. This just means that if we decide to change the fence's day rate from 200 to 215 a day, all our labour rates and total rates get changed. If we want to say we want to allow an extra 5% on all the labour rates, we put that in there, everything changes again. So if we think in the next year materials are going to go up 15%, we can put in a 15% allowance in here, and you can see once again everything changes. Makes it very quick and easy to look at the impact of any cost adjustments that there could be. So this is our rates page. Now this is going to actually be used for stages 2, 3 and 4. But for now, we'll go and have a look at the quantity link. So we've put in some titles here or descriptions here for the different work elements. They don't have to match exactly what is in the subjects or in their markup list, because you're actually just doing a link on the quantities here. So the quantity link has been created here, but if we just have a quick look, if I go to edit, I've gone to the length, and then I've chosen from there subject, and I've chosen 3 metre fencing, close bore fencing with posts at 3 metres. Now these links are live, so On this one here, we've got 149.26 meters. If we jump back into review, you'll see 149.26 meters. If I click on here and add another couple of fences, you'll see that here our amount has increased to 184.22. Jump back over to Excel and it's already updated for us, which is great. So our rates are pulled forward by looking at the description here and cross-referencing it with the table here. So you can see 43.66, 43.66 here. If I changed 5% on here, we're now at 44.31, 44.31 back on this table, which is fantastic. Everything's live, works really quickly and fairly simple. Now, the problem we run into with using quantity link is, by the looks of it, we're limited on the columns that we can choose from review. So we were okay choosing the length in this column, but for our posts, if I try and set up a link for this, go to create, I'd want the number of columns, posts, so go to count. And when I come to the choices I've got the subject, which is no good. I've got the post centers and I've got the post rate. What I haven't got is the number of posts, and I can only assume that's because it's calculated on a formula. But unfortunately, that really scuppers using quantity link for our fencing example, because I've only got the total length for fencing, I can't calculate the actual number of posts that we need, because dividing this by 100, this 184.22 by 3, and then getting the number of posts, we're missing the detail in the shorter lengths, as we saw in review, where we were adding up the number of posts here. Because if a section of fencing is short, say here, 4.14 meters at 3 meter centers, we actually need 3 posts for that. If we did that straight on a formula, 4.14 divided by 3 was only going to give us 2 posts, which is the 1 point something rounded up to 2. It won't add on the extra posts that we need. So, as I say, unfortunately, in this example, quantity link isn't going to work for us. But I'll carry on with the example, excluding the posts. So we've seen here, we've got the total value for the fencing works and the gates. But you'll also notice we've got labour rate, we've got material rate, and we've got a plant rate making up the total rate. So what we can start to do, as we're in Excel now, is start to use these details. So we can bring forward those details in exactly the same way as we brought forward this rate here. We use an XLOOKUP formula. We look up the description here. We cross-reference it with the description here, and we return this column here for the labour rate. This column we use for materials, this used for the plant. So that's great. And then what we can do from that is multiply each of those by the quantity, and then we start breaking it down, the works down into element values, labour, material, and plant. So we've got a total for each. You see that the overall total is exactly the same, but this is just useful for when we're looking at how we're doing on the jobs, how much our labour costs have been, etc. We can actually do a proper comparison. So just to show this is live, if we've got 29,869 here. If we go in and we say materials are going to go up 20%, or we will allow for 20%. You can see the figure's gone up here, the material element has gone up, and the overall price here has gone up as well, which is great. What we can also do is just show you here. So we come back into this example. Let's add in a couple more fences. Jump back over to Excel. Quantities are updated, totals are updated, all our element values are updated as well. What we haven't been able to do though is use the details in where we've put labels in for splitting it down, because quantity link only works with the totals for each item. So as with stage 1, we can't start using these plot details. But this is still very useful to have all the further breakdowns. The speed at which you can update costs, allowances, etc. is great, and literally it is update 1 or 2 cells and that has updated everything with regards to your pricing. So I think that is it for stage 2.